Welcome to the Supreme Grammar Podcast, where you can learn to write like a Supreme Court Justice, with me, Jill Barton. On this episode, I've asked our AI hosts to describe how to improve flow and make our points clear with transitions, qualifiers, and intensifiers. Let's listen in to learn more about modern legal writing style.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something really practical for anyone who writes legal documents.
Yeah, how to make your writing flow better, make it clearer, maybe more modern.
Exactly. And guide your reader through your argument without them getting lost.
We're digging into excerpts from The Supreme Guide to Writing by Jill Barton, specifically her chapters on qualifiers, intensifiers, and transitions.
Right. So our mission here is to pull out the key takeaways, the practical stuff, to help you, whether you're still in law school or practicing, really sharpen your writing, make it more persuasive just by making it clearer.
Okay, so let's start with qualifiers and intensifiers. Now, you've probably heard, maybe in Legal Writing 101, just cut these words out.
Oh, yeah. Get rid of really quite just noise, right?
That's the standard advice. But Barton points out something interesting. The Supreme Court justices, they actually use them. She calls it a unanimous rule from her research. Use some qualifiers and intensifiers. They don't just cut them all.
Why, though? What's the point if the goal is precision?
Well, it's about nuance, adding a bit of a conversational feel, maybe. Qualifiers like quite or somewhat, they can add necessary vagueness, for those gray areas.
Okay.
And intensifiers, like really or very, they can, intensify. Pile on emphasis where needed. It helps navigate those areas where pure black and white just doesn't fit the legal reality.
So they use them strategically, not just randomly.
Precisely. Barton lists common ones the justices use.
Yeah.
Actually, fairly, in fact, just quite rather really so. So seem pretty popular.
But isn't legal writing supposed to be super precise? I remember the Chief Justice Roberts' example about needing exact numbers for frog populations, not just saying they rather dwindled.
Right, and that's the key point. It's moderation. When precision is paramount, like with hard facts or data, you need precision. But when you're interpreting, arguing, dealing with intent, sometimes a word like surely, or rather, actually guides the reader's understanding more effectively. It softens or shapes the point subtly.
Okay, that makes sense. So moderation. How much is moderate?
Good question. Barton uses Justice Gorsuch as an example. He uses words like just, and really his favorites apparently, about once every 3 pages or so.
So not overwhelming the text, just sprinkled in.
Exactly. Adds a little rhythm, a touch of voice. You see it in his writing, like asking if a majority is just stretching something or if it actually means something else. Those small words do real work.
And there was another example, something about helpful.
Yeah, another justice calling something unsurprising and, in fact, quite helpful. See, in fact, and quite working together there. Even literally gets used, but correctly, like voters left quite literally without a vote. It adds texture, used properly.
Okay, so that's managing nuance within sentences, but connecting the bigger ideas, making sure the reader follows from point A to point B.
Right. That brings us to transitions. And the unanimous rule here is pretty simple. Ease the reader's way.
Transitions. They're crucial, aren't they? Not just filler words. They link everything, facts, precedent, arguments.
Absolutely. They show the reader how things connect. They orient them, keep them moving forward with your logic. They're like signposts.
You see that really clearly sometimes, like in a complex dissent.
Definitely. Barton mentions a Sotomayor dissent as an example. Very methodical signals. First, second, third, then next, thus. Otherwise, finally, you know exactly where you are in the argument.
And there are different kinds of transitions for different jobs, right?
Yeah, Barton groups them. Like adding points and also, what's more, introducing to begin with. Comparing.
Yeah.
Likewise, similarly, or a good one, so too here.
Contrasting is a big one. But still, yet, however, or even just a sharp, not so.
Exactly, not so, boom, signals a pivot. Then emphasizing. In fact, specifically, for instance, even things like fast forward for time or concluding. Thus, in short, in sum, they all tell the reader what kind of connection you're making.
So using these tools, qualifiers, intensifiers thoughtfully, and transitions deliberately, what's the overall effect?
You end up with writing that's, well, more sophisticated. More nuanced, yes, but also just easier to follow. Your reader understands your reasoning better because you've guided them.
It makes the argument itself feel stronger, more persuasive because it's clearer, more modern maybe, less dense and forbidding.
I think so. It shows you're in control of the argument and thinking about your reader's experience.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. Qualifiers and intensifiers. Don't ditch them entirely. Use them with purpose, moderately for nuance.
And transitions are your absolute friend. Use them consciously to build bridges between your ideas for the reader. Definitely try playing with these in your own writing.
Maybe the best legal writing, maybe it's just as much about how skillfully you lead your reader through that case, how these little words we've talked about actually shape their journey and ultimately their conclusion. Something to consider.
Definitely something to consider.
That's it for this deep dive.
So the takeaway is that we can finesse and even strengthen a point with a well-placed transition, intensifier, or qualifier. And next time, we'll turn to verbs, the engine of every great sentence. And remember, you can be a great legal writer.